All right. Welcome back to the Seven Figure Seller Summit. Today, I'm super excited to have my good friend Chris Rawlings with us here. And Chris is a seven-figure seller, and he's in the health and personal brand niche on Amazon. And he's also the founder of Sophie Society, a brand management company that manages large brands presence on Amazon. And Chris is also a Titan mentoring leader on the Titan network. So today, Chris is going to teach us the science of enhanced brand content, EBC creation on Amazon, used by the top 1% of Amazon sellers in 2020. So you guys can take this and implement this into your Amazon business. So welcome, Chris. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Thank you for that introduction. I'm really stoked to be here with all of you guys and to dig into the science of this really important part of the listing that we kind of all neglect, or at least a vast majority of sellers neglect.
I agree 100%. And for those of you guys watching live, welcome. And if you can type in your where you're watching from and your name, just so we know who you are. I see someone said, hi, Gary. Hello. I'm not sure. I can't see your name, but if you can let me know your name and where you're calling from or where you're watching from, that would be awesome. So before we get it started, Chris, can you share with us your story? How did you get started selling on Amazon and this whole e-commerce business?
Yeah, I think originally I was listening to a bunch of podcasts, all different entrepreneurial podcasts. And in the time I was in the solar industry looking to do something new. And I just heard about the opportunity of starting brands with an Amazon presence and using Amazon as a platform to grow a brand. And I had a spinal injury from being in a rock band for 7 years, a touring rock band. So I kind of used that as my personal story to start a brand centered around spinal health. And I thought, oh, well, if I sell 5, maybe 10 units a day at $10 a unit profit, that'll be like $50 to $100, and I could live on that. Like worst case, I could live, and that's cool because that'd be freedom, enough for me to live. And then we ended up doing 100 times that, and then more. So it was like it just blew up really, really fast. And we went international. And then I started a software and services company to help other sellers do the same thing. And now I'm running Sophie Society, where we partner with brands to grow their presence on Amazon. And yeah, it's been a wild ride. Lived that digital nomad life. Was working remotely from the fields of Norway and motorcycling across New Zealand. And yeah, and so now I'm talking to you from New Jersey, my home state, and it's nice to be around my home state for a while.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about the e-commerce business, the fact you have location independence. So you can travel to like New Zealand and like motocross across the country, or you can spend some time with your family in New Jersey. So I think that's very awesome. And before we begin, I like to just welcome a couple of our viewers. Wendy from Sydney, Australia. Welcome, Wendy. Great to have you. All right. So yeah, if people watching, if you have any questions, we'll have a Q&A session after Chris's presentation. Chris is going to present a slideshow in a minute, so you can ask questions about Chris's presentation or anything else that you saw on the summit, and then we're happy to answer them. All right, so without further ado, I'll turn things over to you, Chris, if you'd like to begin your slideshow.
Sure, let's do it. I'm excited to dig in here. All right. Make sure that you guys can see this. So is it coming through clear? All good?
Yeah, I can see it clearly.
Nice. You gotta love live. So in this presentation, I'm going to be jumping through the mechanics of a healthy enhanced brand content, or what is now called A+ content. I'm going to be jumping in and out of these slides because I'm going to show you guys some real world examples. and show you examples from listings that actually used EBC to boost their conversion. And I'm going to be breaking down a formula that you can follow to the T to create great enhanced brand content for yourself. What happened with this is that it was a couple of years ago that Amazon opened up the potential to do enhanced brand content. Before that, in like 2015, 2016, I think even 2017, there was just a description, and you could either add HTML, even though it wasn't allowed, or not. Then Amazon allowed only for certain brands, like vendor central brands, to have extra special content there that included graphics, etc. And then, after that, they finally rolled it out to everybody. But since it's still relatively new in terms of the history of Amazon, people still don't really know how to utilize this space. And it's really important because the buyer journey on a listing is they start at the top of the listing, they look at the images, they scan the bullet points quickly, then they scroll right to the bottom to the reviews. They look at the reviews and then they scroll back up. And so this is your chance to stop them when they scroll back up, because they really took a cursory view of the top and then they looked straight at the reviews. That's where they really spent their time. This is how buyer behavior works on Amazon. Then they scroll up and you can grab them here with the EBC there, because it's the perfect time for you to really dig in and tell your story. Because if they've made it that far and they've seen the images, the bullet points, and the reviews, and they're still in the listing, that means they're on the fence, and this is the time to close them. So this can actually have a dramatic impact on your conversion rate if you do it right. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So like I said, this is a formula, but just like anything like music or business or anything, you learn the rules first and you just get good at those and just follow it, just copy it until you have done it enough and you're really good enough that you can start to get creative with it. But for now, don't worry about getting creative with it. Follow the formula. I'm telling you that it works. Sophie Society has implemented this on hundreds of brands, hundreds of listings. So do it first before you start worrying about breaking the rules. Just straight up follow what I'm about to tell you. We just went through my history. So the goal of getting better EBC is, one, to increase your SEO relevancy, because you're adding in more words, and especially through the telling of your story, some longer tail keywords that are going to get picked up by the algorithm. And then also it allows, when you're sending traffic there, as long as you're sending relevant traffic, it allows you to increase your conversion by speaking to your ideal customer, which also increases your SEO and your ranking, because higher conversions are part of the algorithm's what the algorithm takes into place when it determines search ranking. And then the second thing, which leads to conversion rate, is increasing customer trust. So if, like I said, if they've made it that far, they've seen the reviews, they've seen the images, they've seen the bullet points and the title, and they're still on the listing, then they're wanting you to win them over. They're asking you to win them over. All right, tell me what I should do to go across the finish line and buy this product and not click off onto another. And this is your chance to really emotionally connect with them. You had the images and you had the bullet points to show that it's the benefits and the features of the product, and it's the right product that solves their pain point, or else they wouldn't still be on the listing. Now it's time to create that emotional bond. And I'm going to show you just how to do that.
Chris, sorry to interrupt. I'd like to just quickly better understand, when you say increase SEO relevancy, is it just based on Amazon SEO ranking, or is it just Google? Okay. Is there any impact on Google SEO as well, or not?
Oh yeah. There certainly is. The more content that you can add to the listing, the more it takes. We've done tests with this with Google searches of all different products in all different categories. And when you really fill out a listing, it starts to rank more, especially for the longer tail keywords that you normally aren't focusing on for your ranking, et cetera. So a lot of people use Google to search Amazon. They'll search Amazon weight loss pills or Amazon iPhone stand, and that's when it really matters. And a surprisingly large portion of customers do this. It's really nuts, but like a lot of people just search Amazon using Google, and it's a great way to add to your revenue stream to optimize that.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So the three basic things that you need to do with EBC are inform, inspire, and sell. And it doesn't make a cool, catchy acronym or anything like that, unless you think is a cool acronym. But these are the three basic things you want to do, and I'm just going to walk through them one by one so you understand what they mean. So we'll start with inform. So to inform, that means, we'll walk through the anatomy first, and then we'll dig into the inform, the inspiration, and the selling. So here is the breakdown. You might want to screenshot this or take a picture of it or whatever, but this is the anatomy of great EBC. It starts with the hero image that grabs the attention. Then it goes into the story, then a slideshow, and I'm going to show you what modules to use for each of these, so don't worry. Then it goes into graphics, and then the banner, and then finally the product carousel that cross-sells your other products. And so each of these is either doing the informing and or educating. Another way to say that is educate. The inspiration, which is really where the story comes into play and the very striking visuals, and the selling is the product carousel where you're cross-selling the products. So we're going to dive into some examples of each of these. So starting with the hero image, what you want to do with the hero image is grab that customer. Like I said, they started at the top, they scroll down to the bottom where the customer reviews are, and now they're scrolling back up. You need to grab them. You need to grab them with something striking and big. And the way to do that is with an excellent hero image. And that's why that's so key. So I'm going to show you an example here. This is an EBC that we created for a company called Treemimals. So this hero image is big. It takes up almost the whole screen, and it's quite striking. It's got these kids that are adorable and cute using the product, and it's huge. So you don't want just like this thin, tiny little banner. It's got to be something really big and striking in some way to really grab the customer's attention. And the point of this is just to stop them from scrolling. Once you stop them from scrolling, then you're going to go on to the next element, which is the story. And so the story is where the inspire part comes. So this is where you really have the chance to emotionally connect with the customer, and this is where your price differentiation comes into play. You're able to sell at a higher price as long as you make your product non-commodity. So commodity products compete on price, non-commodity products do not compete on price. If it's not a commodity product, there's something totally uncopyable with this. And one of the ways to do that is to tell a great story. That's in fact the best way to do it. If you watch some of Russell Brunson's stuff with ClickFunnels, he goes way into the science of the story and how it sells. And I highly recommend you do that. It's really cool. But the way to do it here is to either use the founder story, an example customer story, like a case study, or some type of inspiring company story, like how the design came about, like the idea story. And these are great ways to connect emotionally with the customer and make you completely invaluable. Because now you're not just a product solving a problem, you are a character in this customer's head. And you've implanted this story in their mind that they will not be able to forget because of the fact that human beings naturally use storytelling to convey information. We're wired that way. We've been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years, and evolutionarily it was programmed into us. For hundreds of thousands of years, we've been sitting around campfires telling stories. So we're wired to understand stories, and that's why the story is so powerful. And I'm going to show you an example of this so you can really put it into real terms. So this is Copper Cow. It's a company that we worked with. This is the EBC that we actually created them. And you can see the founder used her story of being a Vietnamese American person who kind of went back to her roots to found this company, Copper Cow Coffee, and brought the art of the Vietnamese pour over coffee to Western society and Western consumers. And it's a cool story. And she also has pictures of her at the actual farms where the beans are grown and all of that stuff. But you can see her face is right here. It gives this brand character, and it gives this brand an identity. I can go back to the EBC that we were just looking at and show you that this story element was actually baked into the slideshow, but this Dreamimals product was invented by a 7-year-old named Harper. And that's a cool story. The product being invented by a kid for kids really makes this product connect with the customer's emotions. So be it a parent or a kid themselves, this allows this product to really stand out, and that can't be copied. You can't copy that. A Chinese knockoff, of this product couldn't copy that and couldn't copy the story or the authenticity of that. So that's why this element of the EBC is so powerful, and it's something almost nobody does. But when you do it, it has a dramatic impact on your ability to push people over the line when they're fence sitting on whether or not to buy a product or click off. The next is the slideshow, and this is an excellent part that utilizes a cool glitch in human psychology, which is they're making some sort of commitment to you just by interacting with your content. And it sounds weird, but it's actually subconscious, and this is studied, that interactive content is on some level a commitment from the customer. They're doing something as a result of the content that you're providing them, and it's the hover over. So you can see they need to hover over these different images in order to see them and see their features. And that commitment from the customer, even though it seems so stupid and seems small, just to mouse over, is already getting them, it's already a two-way relationship. They're not just consuming, they're also acting. So it's one step closer to the action of adding the product to their cart. And this might sound silly to some of you, but if you're digging into the science of conversion, this is a big deal. You take little baby steps and gets the customer more and more comfortable with actually taking the step that you want them to take, which is adding it to cart or clicking buy now. And so beyond that psychological impact, the way you want to utilize this is to show the product's benefits that you didn't show earlier on, and to highlight deeper elements of the product and other perspectives, other uses of the product. It's a great place to put additional content that you didn't have room for in the images. So that's the next part of effective PPC. After this, you have a couple, the graphics and the banners elements, which you can swap these around and you can change the order. But the most important thing is that you have them both in there. Now, this is the part where you're emotionally connecting with them, not with text, but with images. So, a picture tells 1,000 words. This is the place where you want to have images that inspire some type of emotion. Because remember, that's the whole idea of what we're doing here is we're educating the customer, we're inspiring them by inserting some kind of emotion, and then we're selling. So this is the part where after they've been touched by the story, this is your time to touch them with striking visual imagery. And you can see that in the example that we were just looking at here. So this imagery is striking. It's kids' faces snuggling, the look on their face. It's very genuine and super duper cute. Whatever space you're in, you can find a way to do this. And I'm going to show you a couple tricks and hacks later on. If you think, oh, I don't have the photos for this, there are other ways and other sources of photos for you to be able to have the same effect. the same striking emotional impact. Were you going to ask something, Gary? I heard you. It sounded like you were about to ask a question.
No, I think it's pretty clear.
Okay.
Yep.
So the graphics and the banner can be interchangeable, but they're both, in this case, we use the banner to show icons and further elements of the features of the product, and the graphics to inspire that deep emotional impact and really use striking imagery to inspire some kind of emotion. So this is less about the features of the product itself and more about the emotion. You have plenty of space in your images and up in the switcher, the image switcher in the EBC to show all the features and the benefits. This is about emotion. And then finally,
Chris,
you have the product carousel.
Sorry to interrupt. Talking about these images that really strike emotions, I mean, I think one of the common things is having like people in them. Are there any other like common things for people that might not be that familiar with, creating like a striking image?
Yeah, if they don't have access to people, you mean?
Yeah, or they don't have access to people, or I mean, like, are there some other like best practices that you could share? Or I don't know if if you would talk about this later.
Yeah, other things that can be striking are extreme close-ups can actually be striking. It's an experience of the product that you don't get just by whole product images or even in person. If you do a super zoom, that can be very striking and very visually appealing. But in general, if you're inspiring emotion, what you really want to do is have the product in use by a human, because that is, humans feel emotions for other human beings, not really for things. So you're really inspiring emotion by showing the emotion that you want your product to invoke in the person using it, so that the visitor to your listing can step into that person's reality and kind of vicariously live through them. Right.
So like maybe one example, one of my products is a kitchen product. And then, in one of, our images, I have a picture of a father and a daughter, sitting at the dining table with this kitchen product. And, it's like part of their like breakfast routine, whatnot. So, you can try to get people to visualize how that might look like in their home with their family. Is that kind of what you mean when you say, inspiring emotion?
Absolutely. Exactly. And you don't always have to have your product in all of the images. If you're very elegant in the way you put this together, you can't tell the difference between a mix of product images and stock images and all product images. They're really elegant ways, and I'm going to share a resource later to put in a mix of stock and product images if you don't have them all enough, human use images with the product in hand. So have the people in there, whether you have the photos of your product in use with people and with models or not. You got to get the people in there, even if you have to use stock imagery. And stock imagery seems like a dirty word to a lot of people. It can actually be really useful, and it's really a great way to add character and inspire emotion. That's what it's all about, actually, is the emotion that you want to inspire. And I'm going to share the resource later on that.
Yeah, excellent. And one quick note about stock imagery. Like, I actually took a stock photo and then I had it photoshopped, and then with my
you can do that as well.
Like in it, and then that saves you so much money. I mean, from hiring like a professional model and photographers. But just a quick aside. But
Yep, you nailed it, dude. That's another option that you can always utilize. And you can do it in a very elegant way. There's a lot of cheesy photoshopped images out there, but you can Photoshop your product, especially if it's small. Like if it's in like a larger scene and your product is really small in the scene, it's easy if you have like a very talented graphic designer to add it in there.
Perfect.
So the last element, and possibly the most important of effective EBC, is the product carousel. And this is the sell part of the inform, inspire, sell 3 goals. This is the selling goal. So this is where you're going to do a comparison table of your own products. And this does a couple things. One is it makes them feel like they have options without them leaving your listing, because Amazon is more and more trying to encourage browsing behavior on their platform. You can see it with how much more of a listing is constantly taken up by sponsored products, products related to this product, the comparison table element that they added a couple years ago, and then the new ad spots that sometimes pop up right underneath the images. They're trying to encourage people to browse around and to just stay on the platform and click around and check different things out and add things to their cart and whatnot. So they're not on your side. When a shopper is on your listing, Amazon's not on your side. Amazon, of course, wants shoppers to convert, but they also want them to browse around, and they want them to find the best deal because it produces the best customer experience. So your goals and Amazon's goals are not aligned in this realm. So this is where you have to be very careful. There are a lot of strategies to get more real estate on your listing outside of EBC, but inside EBC, you want to give a big section for the product carousel where you see different products in your line of products, or even outside your line of products, still in the brand, that show their features as well. So it's kind of like a mini listing of each. I'll show you an example of this on the listing that we were just dissecting. So you can see in this case, it's different characters. So it shows the characters and then all of their features in this comparison chart. So each one is kind of its own little mini listing, and you can click on one and it opens you up to that listing. So they're clickable, and this gives you more real estate on your own listing. So with all of these elements of a real live Amazon listing that show people other companies' products, 4 stars and above, sponsored products related to this product, what customers buy after viewing this item, which could be your product or someone else's product. It's so important for you to get more real estate on your own listing. Other ways for customers to click off of the listing while still being inside your company's ecosystem. So this is a really valuable spot, this product carousel, and that's where you really want to sell yourself and your brand and your other products. And you can add up to 5 modules down there. And for those of you that don't know, I just wanted to show you what this looks like. If you haven't created EBC before, these are your choices. So this is why people get frozen, because there's so many different choices of different modules. But if you took a screenshot of the formula that I showed you, you can just use the modules that make sense. You can see the comparison chart here, the multiple image module here, the banner. Don't get confused. Unlimited options leads to unlimited confusion. So keep it simple, follow the formula, and just follow it step by step. And you're going to create great EBC if you just follow this simple formula. So don't get confused by all these modules, but this is what it looks like in the interface. So you're going to add these modules basically in the order that I showed you. The order doesn't necessarily matter except for the first and last one. You can mix up the middle ones, but as long as the first one is this big banner image and the last one is your comparison chart, you're good to go. Now, let's talk about some tips. So we talked about stock imagery. A great resource for this is freepik.com. And the cool thing about Freepik is that it's search-based. So I can literally search for dad playing in a field with son. And then boom, I'm going to get these family images of dads in fields with their son. So it's that specific. You can search for whatever you want and get really cool stock imagery that you can either mix in to your product photography, or like Gary mentioned, you can actually Photoshop in your product if there's an elegant way for you to do that. Just don't do it if it's going to look cheesy. But there are definitely ways for you to Photoshop in products without it being noticeable at all. Like it looks like a legit photo shoot. You'd be amazed what Photoshop artists and graphic designers can do. So I highly
Chris,
recommend it.
sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. Just one quick note about photoshopping. What I did was, I mean, I suck at Photoshop, so I hired a graphic designer like in India, and then they did like a really professional job. Like if you don't look too closely, you probably wouldn't know that it was Photoshop. So I highly recommend, if you don't have Photoshop skills like me, don't like hack it. I mean, just spend a little money. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like a fraction of the cost of what you would pay like a real model and a real photographer. And then
exactly.
Rosalind watching, she says, that is brilliant. It's so hard to have real people in the shots. And then I think that, this is, she loves to learn more, and exactly what Chris is saying. And this URL, free pick, it's freepik.com. Is that right?
Yeah, FREEPIK. And I mean, you can search for some really specific stuff. Like it's really a cool like search-based stock image photo library. So I just searched like young mom in kitchen. So that's like pretty freaking specific. Like moms that are young and in the kitchen, and still there are tons of images of young moms with or without their kids in the kitchen. So there's literally, you could search anything and it can be extremely specific. So get creative with it. And again, your product doesn't have to be in the shot. What you're trying to do is communicate the value, communicate the emotions that you want your product to inspire in the customer with these images. So you can mix them in. But yeah, like Gary said, Upwork is a great place to find Photoshop artists. I don't know if that's where you found yours, Gary. Was it Upwork?
Yeah, it was Upwork. Yeah. It was Elance
before,
spot. But yeah, now it's known as Upwork.com. Yeah.
Yeah, and Upwork has a ton of that type of talent, creative talent, Photoshop talent, graphic design. It's a really, really great resource for that. And by the way, if you did want to create like a specialty infographic for your EBC, which sometimes this can be really helpful, we designed an EBC that it showed like an infographic of the box with all of the different ingredients, because it was a box that was like a kit for kids, and it had a ton of different things in it, and a ton of different like mix and match ingredients. So to make that easily understandable, we did a graphic for that. If you want to do that, a great resource for that is 99 Designs, where you can host contests. Now, this is a bit more expensive, so this is if you have a budget, but you can run a contest to have people design, a full design for you if you're looking for something specialty. But in general, Upwork is a great place to find contractors. It's an amazing resource.
Definitely. And Chris, I'm sorry, one quick question that we have from someone on Facebook. I'm sorry, we don't have your name here, but do you have any sites you can recommend for stock video?
Stock video, there is one, but I can't remember the name of it. But there's a really great platform. I mean, there's a lot of great platforms for this, but there's one that I know is used by videographers and editors that I trust. But I can't remember the name of it, but I can get it from my friend, and we can include it in the notes, right, Gary?
Definitely, we can add that to the show notes.
All right, let me make a note of that so I can add that in there, because that's a really good point. If you mix that in with simple videos of your product in use, you can also use that to inspire emotion from the video standpoint.
Right.
So a couple other tips is big specialty graphics, like I mentioned, with the ingredients, or something else where it's really tough for you to communicate the value of the product because it's hard to list out, or it would be like too long to list out, or is tough to communicate with a picture. A specialty graphic is great for that if you can get a graphic designer to help you. Again, this is not necessary. This is just kind of like additional tips. It's a really great way to communicate ideas succinctly and quickly at a glance. It's the infographic style. So it can show, steps of how to use it, or it can show a breakdown of the parts. or it can show anything about the product that would take like a paragraph to explain, but that you could explain with a really good visual. And this is a great way to get people to get more information faster from the limited time that they spend on your EBC. And then finally, it's a great place to add more text and more information about the product, EBC, but just remember that EBC is really all about the images. They had plenty of time to spend on the bullet points to find out about the features and benefits. And while it's still good for you to add more features and content to the listing, to the EBC, because it's a place to do a fusion of images and copy, it's really all about the images. So don't think copy first, images second. Think images first, copy a far second to images, because the striking images are really what's going to hold people's attention with EBC, with the exclusion of the story, because that has to be in text format. The story is as important as the images. So that is it, guys. You can get the slides just by emailing hello@sophiesociety.com. That'll get to my team. We can send the slides back out to you. And yeah, if you have any more questions, Gary, we can go into those. Or if the live viewers have any questions, we can jump into that as well.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Chris. This was a fantastic presentation. A lot of nuggets that I think people are getting immediately. And we have another follow-up question from Rosalind, who asks, would you use images without your product in the first main listing if you don't have shots with people, or only in your EBC? What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, you can. In the first main image, you can. It can be a striking, there's an example of this that worked really well. We were managing this company that sells like outdoor equipment, like telescopes and binoculars and things like that. Outdoor category is a great opportunity to use stock imagery, because you can use pictures of mountains and people hiking and people in tents, like in these awesome outdoor scenarios, and it strikes the viewer and stops them in their tracks, because it's such a big, striking image. So it can be without the product. If you do have the striking imagery that's high definition, that has your product in use and it inspires emotion, then use that, because it's better to have your product in it than not. But if it's between two options, and one is ho-hum product imagery that you have of your product, and the other is striking emotional imagery that's stock, go with the striking stock imagery before you go with the product imagery that doesn't inspire, because that's what the EBC is about. This is your opportunity to do that. Up in the product images is a totally different story. That should all be including your product. But down in the EBC, use the power of stock imagery, especially if you don't have the real striking emotional imagery with your product.
I see. So in other words, if you have really powerful, like striking stock imagery, go with that over any like ho-hum photos that you and your team created, right?
Well, I mean, it's guaranteed that there's stock imagery that's striking out there in your space. In every space, there's striking, like emotionally inspiring imagery. So that's always an option. But if you don't have the striking product-specific images, that's when you want to go to the stock imagery.
Right. Okay, excellent. And then Rosalind just said, brilliant, thank you, great information. So nice work, Chris. Okay.
Sure.
And then for everyone else watching, now's your chance. I mean, we have live seven-figure seller Chris Rawlings. He manages seven-figure brands as well. As you saw, he has a wealth of information. If you have any other questions, now's your chance to type it in the chat window. We have them for a couple more minutes. Meanwhile, I had a couple of questions. If we kind of like expand the scope a little bit, if we look at the big picture, I'm curious if we look at, in terms of trends that you're seeing on Amazon right now in 2020, what are some of the trends that you're seeing, as you're working with all these different sellers,
Yeah.
to sell well in 2020, Chris?
Yeah, one of the biggest things is be aware that Amazon is really spending a lot on encouraging browsing behavior. Amazon is known as a search platform, a product search platform, but over the last year, you can see the trend that Amazon is trying to feed of browsing behavior, customer browsing behavior. They have a focus on these affiliate pages where influencers can have their own page of products that they promote with videos of them using the products that are funny and engaging. And they have these Amazon Live Video that they launched just a couple months back, which allows for brands to host live video sessions that customers can dial into. And then you can see how listings have changed with all kinds of different categories on the listing. Customers who bought this also bought sponsored products related to this item, other products that are 4 stars and above. Compare this product to similar items. Customers who bought this, who viewed this item, ended up buying. There are tons of spaces on the listing, more and more and more, that encourage shoppers to move off and browse around and check things out. So keep that in mind. If you're only focused on your search rank and you're not focused on encouraging this browsing behavior to work for you, then you're going to fall behind in 2020. And it's what most sellers are really not paying attention to this. And I believe that there will be a whole new science built around this browsing behavior and how to optimize this browsing behavior for purchases. Of course, it's a lot harder to measure because it's very simple to say, okay, what's my search rank for my major keyword? Oh, it's either 2, 3, 4, 10, 16. It's either page 1, page 2. It's very well defined. And you can measure what the flow of traffic is for each of those spots. It's much harder to define the effect of your actions on browsing behavior. And that's why it's going to be a more intricate science. But I believe that the sellers that embrace this and start to actually act on it are going to be the ones that win the long game. And especially this year with the moves that Amazon has made in the last year in 2019.
Yeah, I can see that from Amazon, because they do want people to spend more time browsing, not just shop like one and done. And
they're trying to make it fun. They're trying to make an experience so that people like to stay around, stick around. Like I saw this video with Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt has his own. I can actually search it for you since I'm still sharing my screen. It was amazing. He has a whole Amazon page just for products that he endorses. And his video is hilarious. See the Chris Pratt store at Amazon.com. Now, this is something I was on this page for a long time just because it was so cute and funny and well done and laid out so nicely. I would definitely encourage you guys to check this out because you will be sold on the fact that Amazon is encouraging browsing behavior once you see this page. This video it's hilarious. The whole video, he's like playing with these products. He's making fun of them. He's making fun of himself, but he's selling them as an affiliate. And so Amazon is rolling out all of these features to encourage people to just have fun, chill out on the platform, hang around, click on things, watch videos, get engaged. Be interactive, not just come on, search for garlic press, buy it, and leave.
Right. So how can the average Amazon seller take advantage of this trend?
That is the question. Yeah, that is the question, Gary. So a couple of things they can do right off the bat are, one, from the EBC standpoint, having that product carousel on every single listing is a must. If you don't have it, get it as soon as you possibly can, because that's more real estate on your own listing so that the browsing ends up on your page, not others. Another thing is defensive ad buying. So product placement ads are the sponsored product ads that you see on a listing when you see sponsored products related to this product. These are product placement ads. So if there are all kinds of competitors showing up here, you should buy out this spot on all of your listings with all of your other listings. And so then when people are scrolling through, all they see is more of your products. And you might think, well, oh, that's like wasted ad spend because, you know, these people are already on my listing. No, that is a terrible mindset to have. You don't want them to click off to a quote unquote what they perceive as better listing, and you don't want them to get into their ecosystem. The whole idea is you want them, once they're in your ecosystem, click around all you want, but stay in my ecosystem. Click around to my product store, click around to my other products, click back and forth to my products. That's what you want the customers to do. You don't want them to be clicking around different companies and back to yours and back to them. So buying out this whole space is another really good tactic, especially defensively if you have other companies poaching that spot. And then I really feel that there'll be a whole science created around this, Gary, just like there was with the science of how to rank and the science of how to get reviews. It'll be the same thing of the science of encouraging browser behavior. And if you think of it even as yourself as a buyer, what do you do when you go onto Amazon? You know, you search for something, you get on a listing, and then you end up in this click hole. Sometimes I'll be on Amazon and I'll wake up like 10 minutes later and be like, where the fuck am I? Like, you just like, all of a sudden you're on this listing. You don't even know how you got there. And it's because your Amazon is inspiring this behavior.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like YouTube or Facebook, right? They're like deviously like just, you know, holding on to our eyeballs, and, you know, they know exactly why. Yeah, excellent.
Yes.
Okay. We have another question, and then is it okay if we end the screen share so we can maximize our viewing real estate?
Absolutely.
Okay. And we have another question from someone on Facebook. If you only have one product, should you get EBC or wait until you have a few similar ones to build a brand?
Do the EBC. You do have to be brand registered to do EBC. So that's something that you'll have to get is brand registry before you're able to do it. But having one product shouldn't hold you back. You won't be able to do the product carousel, but that's fine. You know, once you have a couple more products, you'll add the product carousel in there. But it will affect your conversion negatively if you don't do EBC. So I'll say that. It will affect it positively if you do, but more importantly, it'll be negative if you don't, meaning when you stack up against other similar products and other similar listings, you're less likely to get the buy, especially now that Amazon is encouraging all of this clicking off and browsing behavior.
Yeah. And then I find that, you know, after interviewing so many 7-figure sellers, it's not necessarily like one big thing, but like incrementally, it's like a lot of these little things that they're stacking, you know, like having these striking images, you know, and then eventually, you know, that compounds to a big effect, you know, for example, on your conversion rate, which boosts your Amazon ranking, which increases your sales. So, so I think this is really brilliant information that you're sharing. So this is excellent. Okay, so hopefully we answered that question. And then we have another question. I'm curious why the company is called Sophie Society. Could you enlighten us about that, Chris?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Sophie is Greek root for wisdom. You hear it in the word philosophy. And I wanted to imbibe that in to the company's culture, that we utilize first principles philosophy and the scientific approach, using, you know, real wisdom to direct our actions, not just doing what the other guy is doing or, you know, following some blog article, but going from first principles, thinking from first principles like a scientist would. So I wanted that to be deeply ingrained in the company and called it Sophie.
Yeah, excellent. Now, I know you do have a science background, Chris, so I love how you
I have a physics degree.
From the analytical, like the science side, and also from like the art and the behavior and the psychological side. I think that's it's great to have the balance, like art and science, right? Like that's what a lot of people say. art and science. Excellent. And then I'm curious, in terms of, like some people they're asking, if you were starting over today in 2020 to sell on Amazon, what would you do? Like, what would you do to be successful in terms of, let's say,
it's a great question.
Like product selection, and then, I mean, we could talk about this for another hour, but let's just talk about like maybe two things, like product selection and launching. I know you have a ton of experience in launching as well. I'm curious, what would you do if, we asked you to start over today, Chris?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question, because the dynamic and the landscape has changed pretty dramatically. And for me, what I would do if I was starting over is I would definitely not do it the same as I did in 2015 when I originally started. I would go after a product category that the main products are selling huge volumes, but there is a whole branch of sub products and sub niches from that niche. Then I would choose one or a couple of those sub niches, and I would design products specifically for those sub niches, not for the products. So I wouldn't go for turmeric supplement. No, I wouldn't try to rank for turmeric supplement. I would start with the keyword that I'm trying to rank for. If it was turmeric supplement, organic turmeric supplement for joint pain, for instance, or organic turmeric supplement for dogs or for dogs' joints, I would go down the branch of sub niches, and then I would hyper focus on those. Because Amazon has grown from a $70 billion a year marketplace to a $250 billion a year marketplace in just a couple of years. The competition has gone up right with it. So there's a massive amount of traffic, and therefore, you can make the same amount of money on one of these sub niches that you would have 5 years ago on the main product. So it's not copping out or giving up or stepping out of the Gulf Stream for you to niche down. So I would niche down, focus on a design element so the benefit of doing this is, since you're not going for a major keyword, you're not going to have a target on your head for Chinese factories to copycat you. You're kind of a little bit hidden. You're under the radar because you're on one of these sub niches, and they might view it as not worth their time to copy you, which is great. Make sure that you do I would make sure that I had the element of design, and then I attached a very unique story element to it to make me completely indispensable as a character and as a brand. And if I was starting over and I was starting from nothing, say, which is a couple $1,000 or a couple hundred, a couple $1,000, I would just totally take advantage of myself and my own character, because that's something that you always have. You're a human being, you're a person, you have character yourself, and you can pour that out as the proxy for the character for your brand. And it's a great hack, is to tell your own story and to tell your own, use your story as the founding story for the company. Then when it comes to launches, I would not do discount code launches anymore. And I'm saying this as someone who ran one of the largest international launch platforms for Amazon sellers. They don't work as well anymore. I can just tell you from the data straight up. But full price purchases do work great. And if you can get the customers to search and find and buy the product, that's the best. So if you do full price purchases with some kind of rebate, that's how I would execute my launch. I would definitely utilize many chat flows and utilize contests like the ones that Seller Tools gives you access to, where they have to add the product to the cart in order for them to be entered into the contest, because add to carts have a much greater impact on ranking than they did when I started back in 2015. Almost as much as purchases now. So yeah, from a launch perspective, I would focus on that. And when it comes to launching, I would now get as granular as tracking it every single day. This is what we do inside the Titan Network, which is an exclusive network of sellers that I'm a mentor in and a leader in. Our launch protocol for members of the Titan Network is every single day we're tracking all the metrics on that launch from the time it goes live to 35 days later, that entire honeymoon period, that 35-day honeymoon period. We're tracking daily how many rebates were given out, how many reviews did we get, how many sales were there, everything. What was the price? What was the discount? How many PPC sales? How many organic sales? And there's that old saying from John Dewar: what gets measured gets managed. And if you're tracking it on a daily basis, it focuses your attention on moving those numbers. You want those numbers to move. It makes you mad that you don't have reviews, so you hustle to get them. So I would definitely track it on a daily basis as well. Yeah. Oh, and then one other thing is, if I was starting today, one thing that I wish that I did back when I started my brand is choose a category that is somehow a product that somehow gets used up. So much easier for you if you have a product that is consumable or gets used up in some way. It doesn't mean it has to be a supplement. It could be a body oil. It could be a car detailing spray. It could be toilet bowl cleaner, something that gets used up that you then have to buy again, because then your loyal customers don't just sit around using your product that lasts for a lifetime, like my products were. They have to keep buying them over and over again. My parents have been buying the same soy milk since I was like 2 years old. For 3 decades, they've been buying Eden soy year after year, month after month, week after week. They spend tens of thousands of dollars on this company. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome. And especially the last point, the consumable product. I mean, if you think of the customer lifetime value, right? I mean, buying one vacuum cleaner versus, buying the bags. You got to keep buying them over and over again.
Nailed it. Yep.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Cool, man. I think that this is excellent. We shared a ton of great value. We're right almost at the end of the hour. Before we let you go, I'm curious, Chris, you seem like a very intelligent and wise individual. What are you doing to stay ahead of this game in this e-commerce world?
I'm going to give you like a macro answer that might be surprising to you, but to me, the most important thing to do to stay ahead is to be inside a community, a very top tier community. And that's why I involved myself with the Titan Network. And, for you, maybe that community is somewhere else, or the most important thing is that the community that you're in will become the DNA of the fuel of your company's strategy. That's the thing. So if you're trying to do it solo, and everybody watching this, you're already basically doing it because you've opted into Gary's summit, and that's great because you're looking for information, you're looking for connection, you're growing in some way. The community aspect, I think, is so important. I learned this in the solar industry. I learned it in the e-commerce industry, and I learned it running an agency as well. Now, if you're not in a community, then everything you know is out of date, period. If you're not in some community, then you're going off of blog articles or something. When you're in the community, there's a hotbed of information. People are sharing things as soon as they come out, and you can always go and get an answer that's like the newest or the most relevant answer to you that's relevant now, especially in an ever-changing landscape like Amazon. So, and that's how I got involved as a mentor in the Titan Network, because that was the best quality community that I saw out on the market. I used to be in another community called Zon Squad. That was really cool. That was run by Joe from Zon Blast back in the day, and Kevin Reiser from the private label movement, and Brian as well. And that was a great community back then, but it doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing that we do to stay ahead.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So,
exactly.
Just spending time with, other successful sellers like Chris and, a lot of the other sellers that we had on the summit, I think that this brings you valuable insights beyond just, like blog articles and like endless, YouTube streams. So
exactly.
Excellent. Yeah. And what about a book recommendation? Do you have any books that you would recommend?
Yeah, I do. So I'm going to, I love books. I read a lot. And is it okay if I recommend two?
Absolutely.
Okay. So one that I love, that the title sounds so cheesy and stupid, but it's what at the time would have been called clickbait now. It's a clickbaity title, but it's so inspiring. And I go back to read it every time I kind of lose this philosophy in practice, is Think and Grow Rich. That book is really what kind of my first exposure to the concept that's so true, that your thoughts become your reality, and that controlling your thoughts is the way to change yourself, your life, what's manifested in your life, your wealth, your relationships, your health, and everything. And that sounds so simple. Maybe to some of you it might sound cheesy or kind of hokey pokey. But this is coming from a scientist. I study physics. I have a degree in physics. And this really had an impact on the course of my life, is learning this information, that your thoughts become your reality. And you don't really understand that concept until you read the book and you see the examples. And so that's one. Then the other one is way higher level than this. And I guarantee tiny fraction of the people watching this are going to read this book, probably nobody. But if one person does, I'll be so happy, because it's my favorite book of all time. And it changed not just my perspective on business and business systems, but the nature of reality itself and systems in reality and this universe and this world and in emergence. And that is Our Mathematical Universe by Max Tegmark. And that will tell you more about the nature of reality itself that you can apply to everything: business, relationships, tiny little moments in your life, the broad spectrum of your life from beginning to end, everything, than any other resource. It's an amazing book that goes from the beginning of scientific discovery in humanity to past the point where we are at now of scientific discovery that's completely mind-blowing and life-altering.
Awesome. I love how you have the balance of, Think and Grow Rich, like one of the classic business books, with Our Mathematical Universe by Mark, analytical and science and math. Hopefully somebody will read it
too. The audio book is great.
Yeah, excellent.
I hope so, dude. The audiobook is excellent. So if you're like going to work or something, it's a good thing to listen to. It's very well told. It's got a good story. It engages you. It's not like, some tough science book that's really hard to get through. I was sad when it ended.
Wow. That's a very heartfelt endorsement. Okay. Before I let you go, if you were to apply the 80-20 rule, what would be your number one recommendation you'd like to leave our viewers with today about EBC and, to optimize your listings to crush it on Amazon?
Okay, yeah. So for the way the 80-20 rule applies when it comes to EBC is get it live. So you might be thinking, oh, now I know what I have to do to create EBC. I need all this striking imagery. I need to somehow craft this perfect story. I need to get these interactive components. I need to figure out my comparison table and all of that. More important than you waiting months for you to get each of those elements perfect and hire a photographer or whatnot, is you to get it live. Get it live first, then iterate. So you use the resources that you have at hand first. And that's why I brought that free pick resource in here, because I want people to be able to that's the whole startup game, is limited resources, unlimited opportunity. You have to do as much as you can with the cards that you're dealt. So the resources that you have now, spend them, get the EBC live, and just do it.
Perfect. Excellent. Get it live. It's like what Steve Jobs said, right? Like, real artists ship. You don't want to fine tune that last 1%, but you just got to deliver the iPhone on schedule. Even though there was a defect with antenna gate, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, he still sold millions and millions of dollars, and he was able to pivot. All right, excellent. And then Chris, you shared so much today. I'm just so thankful and grateful for you coming back, and I appreciate your time. And for the people that are watching today that want to connect with you, what is the best way to connect?
You can hit me up at chris@sophiesociety.com if you want to connect directly with me or you have questions for me. I can answer them all just via email there. You can follow me on Instagram if you want to connect personally, and I'm at Hippie Mogul, HIPPIEMOGUL, Hippie Mogul. That's my Instagram handle. And then if you're looking for an EBC resource or to get your EBC analyzed, you can do that at the link below, ebc.sophiesociety.com. And for free, it is a free resource. Our team has a couple slots that they cut out each week to do analysts for sellers. So if you want to have your EBC analyzed and take a look and have your whole listing actually analyzed, what elements could improve and what elements are doing good, then you can go there, ebc.sophiesociety.com.
Excellent. And, Chris is a wealth of knowledge and firsthand experience when it comes to e-commerce and the Amazon game. So I highly recommend, if you need some help with EBC, definitely follow up with Chris and Sophie Society, ebc.sophiesociety.com. All right. So thank you so much again, Chris. This was an awesome webinar you gave today. And I learned a lot. I'm sure everyone else did too. So just super grateful to have you back, man.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, it was awesome. Awesome doing this with you again. Can't wait till the next one. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me, guys.
Perfect. All right. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you guys soon. Bye, everyone. Bye, Chris.
Bye, guys. Bye, Gary.